Following the onset of mass testing exercise in the area a few days ago, only 130 people have been tested.
Corona, sio ile malaria tumezoea, sio ile cholera tumezoea. Hii ni mnyama mwingine. And it can wipe out everybody. Everybody. Msijidanganye ati vijana haiwafanyii kitu. Kuna hapa watu wamefariki, wako na miaka 30s.
The leaders directing that all residents in Old Town area must undergo mandatory testing or the area risks being locked down.
What is lacking is discipline. Discipline. Kufuata masharti kidogo kidogo. Unajua haya masharti msipofuata, sasa itatulazimu kama serikali tuanze kutafuta mahali ya mass grave. Kwa sababu tutakuwa na gani tena? Itabidi tutafute mahali ya kuzika watu kwa halaiki. Kwa sababu corona itaua. Kwa hivyo tafadhali tuelewane. Tufuate masharti ambayo yamewekwa.
Chiefs in the area also ordered to draft a list of all households and warn those who will resist testing will be arrested and prosecuted.
Wewe uletewa matibabu hapa mtaani kwako, upimwe, pia wasuasua. Ni uzembe kiasi gani huo? Na usifikirie tu kwa kutafuta popularity contest. We don't want to be popular. We want to try and save lives. Na kama hamupimwi tutawafungia ndani ya majumba yenu.
The area will in the meanwhile be supplied with 50 sanitization booths to disinfect each person going in and out of Old Town.
Tutaka extra vigil kwa sababu athari ambao kwamba the price of ignorance in the fight of COVID, the price of ignorance is death. Hatutoka na kuwaacha muwe munawaua mama zetu na baba zetu.
Out of 11 COVID-19 deaths recorded in Mombasa, 6 are from Old Town area. Most of the residents here have ignored basic precautions such as social gatherings, which are notoriously witnessed in mosques, especially Takwa, Anisa and Masjid Azhar. Reporting for Channel 1 News from Mombasa County, I'm Michael Moniga.
So tell us where you're watching us from and whether 51 days since the first coronavirus case was reported, you're keeping safe and following the guidelines provided by the Minister of Health. We can do this and keep the curve as flat as possible if we strictly adhere to these guidelines and not tighten our belts as far as following them is concerned. Alfred, you're watching Channel 1 Weekend. Benjamin Mulo, you also tuned in from Meru County. And Mobisa Peter, Kampala, Uganda, following closely. Thank you for watching from Uganda. Stay safe there. And then Enoch Sabbath, you also watching. And lastly, we have Noah Tanki, you're saying watching from Narok. I really support compulsory mass testing for COVID-19. Meanwhile, let's not behave normally. Right. At Purity_Museo and at KBC Channel 1 News, Channel 1 Weekend is the hashtag to use for tonight. Tell us where you're watching us from and maybe some of the struggles that you are facing as you adhere to these guidelines for COVID-19. Business is quickly picking in Nairobi downtown, where measures put in place by the government to fight the coronavirus pandemic seems alien, and traders and consumers at Machakos Country Bus and the Gikomba Market have ignored social distancing and practices on hygiene, pouring cold water on directives by the government on how to deal with the pandemic tearing the world. Many in the market say it was now a question of survival and not safety, leaving everything to fate.
Their desperation for survival, they say, has driven them to leave their homes to vent for their children and families.
They depend on the money they get each and every day. So it's hard for them to keep distance.
Theirs is no longer a question of safety, saying they cannot be locked in their homes to die of hunger.
Njaa imekuwa mingi, watu wameshindwa wanaenda wapi, imebidi warudi waendelee kung'ang'ana at least wapate kitu cha kwenda kukula.
The traders in these markets downtown Nairobi have thrown caution out of the window and even pleas from the government that these were extraordinary times, not thinking on them.
Shida kubwa tu ni pesa. Juu kama hakuna pesa, kama hakuna kubadilishana pesa, hakuna vitu tunaweza endelea kimaisha.
They have resumed operations and seemingly ignored all directives issued by the government to fight the coronavirus monster. A similar worrying expression is envisaged at the Ukulima and Mudhuro markets. The pandemic seems to have created class stratification in Kenya, as Nairobi's central business district, associated with the middle and upper class, remain deserted. Divided priorities among Kenyans is perhaps a wake-up call to the country at large on the need to put measures that would avert the spread of COVID-19 and at the same time revive the economy. This as most Kenyans feel depressed on the harsh economic times and need to move out and source for livelihood. For small-scale traders and drivers operating in downtown, life is about survivals for now.
Hapa Machakos vijana wengi wanategemea hizi magari, hata wanapokuja asubuhi kutafuta mkato kila siku wanategemea magari hapa hivi. Na bila hakuna magari ndio unaona vijana wengi hawezi keep social distance.
In contrast, traders within CBD are very cautious on social distancing, wearing of masks and practice of hygiene. The happenings at downtown Nairobi has caught the attention of the Ministry of Health, wondering what became of all the simple measures on how to easily defeat the pandemic.
I myself was in Kawangware just the other day, and I could see people with masks, but the masks are hanging by their noses. You know, I could see sanitizer, but sanitizer did not look like it was being utilized. The bottle was quite full, and people were just passing around it.
For business operators in the CBD, life remains a treasure that money cannot buy.
Of course, we want the economy reignited, but we have to also protect the countrymen, and this therefore means we have to work together and enforce these containment measures while trying to come to a new normal.
Irene Mchuma Odim, Channel 1.
In Muranga County, the county government has announced the opening of a new intensive care unit at the county's referral hospital. The 35-bed capacity becomes the biggest ICU in the expansive Mount Kenya region and is expected to boost the region's preparedness in the war against the coronavirus and handle patients requiring critical medical care.
The new ICU facility in Muranga County has been born from the realization that transporting ill patients to Nairobi was a costly venture. The facility, which is the brainchild of Governor Mwangi wa Iria, boasts of ultra-modern medical equipment and a 35-bed capacity that may perhaps put the county in a better position to bring ICU services closer to residents.
Kama vile ambavyo tuliwaahidi, kuanzia siku ya leo tunaweza peana hiyo huduma. Na nimesema sio huduma ya watu wa Muranga, ni huduma ya wagonjwa. Ugonjwa hauna mpaka.
The referral hospital receives 8 critically ill patients per month who need ICU services. There had been concerns about the speed it took to put up the facility, though the county government says all necessary steps were taken to ensure the durability of the structures.
We have proper foundation footing, then as well we have the beams and columns, and as well we used dry construction. We used to actually have reed construction, whereby most of the activities like the roof, the partitioning, we made sure that we prepared these items while we are actually doing the foundation and superstructure.
Muranga County Governor Mwangi wa Iria said though the facility will continue running, he hopes to invite the president to officially commission the ICU as soon as the country contains the spread of COVID-19.
A good move there from Muranga County. We hope our patients will not require the critical medical care. People experiencing social disadvantage and marginalization are known to be disproportionately impacted by ill health. In the context of the global COVID-19 pandemic, children living with disabilities may have increased risk of exposure, health complications, and even death compared to older populations. Tonight, in our coronavirus fact sheet segment, we tell you how to care for children living with disabilities.
For this age group of children, they really depend on their caregivers, on their parents for their well-being. They need to breastfeed, they need to be taken to the immunization clinics, and they also need other health service delivery that pertains to their age. So in this period of COVID, for them what we say is that the parents should keep up with the structure that they've set up in the home. The feeding times, the resting times, the playing times and such. The parent should also ensure that they take care of themselves, because the child actually feels the stress in the parents, and it can destabilize a child. When the parent is visiting a place that will have people with the child, for example, the clinic, for these children, you don't put on masks. They are too young, so what we tell the parents to do is that if you can cover the child, we see very many women covering the child with blankets or with a kitamba, that's okay, but you never put a mask on a very young child's face. Also, for this age group, we don't recommend use of the sanitizers. They have a very high alcohol content, and this can cause either dermatitis in the child because of that very high alcohol content, but also because of their thin skin, the alcohol can get absorbed into the child's system through the skin. So we don't really recommend use of hand sanitizers. It's best to just wash, and also put mittens on the child so that people don't keep touching your child. And yeah, social distancing is very key.
So to sum it up, right now, the 51 days since the first COVID-19 case was reported on March 13, Kenya right now has 435 cases of COVID-19, and Nairobi alone has 266. And these are the identified hotspots in Nairobi. Yesterday, it was Kawangware that was leading at 13, but today, after the mass testing for yesterday and today, we see that Eastleigh is leading at 21 cases, and then Kawangware at 20 cases. These are the major concern for the country or Nairobi County right now, probably with the mass testing, as the CS was saying. The CAS was saying today, other nations or other areas will see whether we'll have increased cases or not. Then South Sea is coming third with 7 cases. Then we have Kilimani area, which has 6 cases. And then other areas such as Pipeline also has 6 cases. Dandora, Kileleshwa, City Park, Manji Court, and we also have Parklands. They have 5 cases each. And these were cases that were picked by surveillance team, the contacts of the first cases. Then Utawala, there is Karen, Buruburu with 4 cases of COVID-19, confirmed cases, and of course tracing of their contacts ongoing. And there was actually a case, the first case in Kawangware, that the CAS was saying that was directly responsible for about 6 cases. Those were the primary contact for case number 189 of the 435. And there are also the secondary cases to that, explaining how serious contact tracing and of course community spread has become a threat to this nation. There are more stories, including the floods that continue to wreak havoc in the country, many families displaced, and of course people losing their loved ones. Will be having details of that and much more. We now take our first commercial break. Keep talking to us. Tell us where you're watching us from and whether you are following the guidelines by the Ministry of Health to prevent COVID-19 at Purity _Museo and at KBC Channel 1 News. Use the hashtag Channel 1 Weekend. We are back shortly.
The Juakari operators and others, our saloonists, our mamboga, our barbers, our economy to a large extent depends on you. We cannot allow Kenyans to die because of non-distancing in any sector. So those of you who are carrying out the hair-cutting business, in barbershops, in saloons, I am appealing to you today. Ensure that social distancing, fumigation of your working places, masks are used at all times. Just assume that everybody is positive and now deal with that situation. Participation of our citizens in the fight against the disease would be our key success factor.
you're watching Channel 1 Weekend. Thank you so much for staying with us. Kelvin Njangiru, together we shall overcome this pandemic. It's been rough for the past 51 days. Let's all keep safe as we all fight this disease. You're watching from Thika. Thank you. And then Ferres Kemunto, Dennis Johnson watching KBC Channel 1 News from Eldoret. All right, thank you so much. And then Junior Boy watching from Vihiga County. Julius Maumo, you also watching Channel 1 Weekend. And then we also had someone else who had a comment. Alfred, you also watching. There was Robert Kips at Bomet. You tuned in to Channel 1 Weekend. Thank you so much. Let's now shift our focus to matters floods and bodies of 2 police officers who drowned on Thursday in River Kagir, Baringo County have been retrieved. Authorities are still searching for the body of 1 more police officer after retrieving 6 bodies. 4 police officers survived the accident.
7 police officers drawn from the anti-stock theft unit met their death after the lorry they were traveling in got stuck in River Kagir. The tragedy occurred as the officers tried to push the vehicle out of the raging waters. The bodies of 4 police officers were retrieved from the river on Friday and 2 today.
Hiyo maji wakati mwingi inakuja na nyanda za juu ikinyesha kule chini watu hawezi kuona, maana nasikia walibeba na maji kwa sababu ya hiyo flow kutoka juu. Kwa hivyo jamii tunawapa pole na tunashukuru pia ushirikiano ya viongozi wote pamoja na serikali kuu kwa kutafuta na kuokoa mwili ya wao ambao wamebebwa na maji.
4 officers survived the accident after swimming to safety. A multi-agency team involved in the search mission will resume operations on Sunday in a bid to locate the body of 1 more officer who perished in the tragedy. The officers were traveling from Kabarnet after attending a security meeting. Local leaders, led by Baringo Governor Stanley Kiptis, condoled with families, urging the locals in flood-prone areas to be cautious during this rainy season.
Over 400 families in the Bibi area of Naivasha have been rendered homeless after a dam burst its banks, flooding several villages last evening. The gushing waters from Marumanet Dam destroyed homes and property in the midnight incident. There were no fatalities during the incident, and the turn of events comes 2 days after the county government donated foodstuff and personal effects to over 400 residents earlier displaced by River Marumanet.
Friday night turned tragic for the residents of Ndabibi area in Maela Ward, Naivasha, after a dam in the nearby Eburu forest burst its banks, sweeping almost everything on its way, mostly logs and soils downhill. In its magnitude, the torrential waters further submerged some parts of the earth, creating gullies to find new waterways.
Tulisikia mgurumo tukafikiria ni gari zinakuja kwa barabara. Kutoka nje tukaona ni maji yamekuja. Sasa ile tunaanza kukimbishana nayo, imeanza kutufunika, kile mifugo pia imeanza kuzama ndani ya maji. Harakati hatukulala mpaka asubuhi.
Marumanet Dam, which at one time supplied water to area residents, could no longer withstand its size, spilling the water that swept away homes and property in the area located about 60 kilometers from Naivasha town.
Na vile unavyoona mashamba yameharibiwa kweli kweli kabisa. Vile ambavyo hatujui tutakuja kukava haya maneno lini. Ninaomba vile tunaweza kusaidiwa kabisa sababu hawa watu wetu sisi hapa huwa tunategemea haya mashamba yetu.
Area leaders say a head count is underway to determine the magnitude of the impact.
Wale ambao wameadhirika tunataka pia watoke hapa juu hii watujui kesho, leo na kesho utakuwa namna gani. Tutawaondoa hapa, watafutiwe pale kupitia kwa chief, waende wakae ile primary school iko na sisi pale, ili kama kuna maji itakuja tena usiku isiweze kuwa na madhara ingine.
Naivasha Sub-County Commissioner Matthew Yambogo, however, says no lives have been lost following the tragedy as residents move to higher grounds for safety.
Tunashukuru Mungu manake hakuna maafa, hakuna mtu alifariki. Kwa sasa watachukupiga kambi na wako kambi pale Dabi Secondary School. Tukingojea tupate jambo la kwanza vyakula, ya pili wapate godoro na blanketi na mavazi kama jambo la kwanza la dharura.
Kamchemenza for Channel 1 News.
Still on the floods update, hundreds of families in Malindi and Magarini constituencies in Kilifi County have been left homeless and their crops destroyed after River Sabaki burst its banks. Some of the residents were forced to move to higher grounds as the river continues to swell. In Kiambu County, over 10 families at Kamiti Anna village in Tinganga ward have been displaced by floods, with reports of massive landslide in Kimende area of Kiambu County. This comes as the weatherman warns of more heavy rains and possible flooding in the coming week.
The ongoing floods continue to wreak havoc virtually in every corner of the country, with the coastal region bearing the brunt of the destruction. In Kilifi County, hundreds of homes in Malindi and Magarini constituencies are counting losses after their home was swept away by raging floods after River Sabaki burst its banks. Most affected were those with the farms and near the river, with floods destroying all the crop that were about to be harvested.
Maji yakaja na usiku, nabidi ile kitu saa 7 ile. Nabidi ndo tukaondoka, tukavunja nyumba, tukaondoka, tukaenda kule, tukaenda kuomba kule majirani. Nabidi tupatie nafasi.
Kufikia sasa ya bomoa na yafuata kama njia, maana kule upande ule amefanya kona. Hatujui sasa ataenda na wapi.
At Mangongoloni area in Malindi, more than 30 houses were swept away by the floods, forcing residents to vacate to higher grounds. Red Cross officials are on the ground to assess the situation.
Wale ambao wanakaa chini ama sehemu za chini za mito ama mto kama huu waweze kuhamia sehemu zile za juu ili wasije wakapatwa na madhara zaidi.
In Galole area of Tana River County, this man who was allegedly marooned by floods for the last 3 days after River Tana broke its banks was rescued by Red Cross officials. In Kiambu County, over 10 families at Kamiti Amna village, Tinganga ward, have been displaced by the raging floods, leaving them to seek alternative shelter. The residents have accused a factory near the village, claiming its poor drainage is making water flow to their house and no assistance has been forthcoming.
Maji imekuja tu kutoka shamba iko hapa ya Msungu, imekuja ikatupata. Na inaonekana nikaa maji ilifunguliwa huko ikakuja ikatupata. Juu tuko na miaka mingi hapa hatujaipata maji.
Hakuna usaidizi wote tumepata kutoka kwa serikali. Ni wanakijiji tu ndio tunasaidiana na wao. Tunaweza kurescue, unapata kaunga ka leo na kakesho.
Kama wanakijiji kwa wenye wameathiriwa na hii maji, kuna pale tumewahamiza kwanza waondokee maji.
In Kimende area, residents are living in fear after a massive landslide that also blocked the road and the railway, inconveniencing movement. The landslide has also destroyed crops.
Hata usiku wa kuamkia leo sio hii moja tu imefanyika, kuna zingine zimefanyika katika area hii yetu.
Tupande miti na tupande ile nyazi ile inaitwa napia grass, na kule ambapo hawalimi kama wanaweza waachilia hivyo wapande nyazi, tunaweza suia tokeo kama hili.
Elsewhere, Devolution PS Charles Sunkuri has confirmed that the national government has spent 245 million tons of food to assist 100,000 families affected by the floods in the country.
Na wizara yetu imeweza kutoa chakula mifuko 54,000 katika taifa lote mahali ambapo kumekuwa na mafuriko.
Kenya Meteorological Department has warned of more heavy rains in several parts of the country, especially in central Nairobi and parts of eastern regions, western Nyanza, central and south Rift Valley regions, and the coastal regions. For Channel 1 News, I'm Ben Troenjue.
The economic effects of coronavirus, both globally and locally, are real in the informal sector, poised to bear the greatest brunt. But for one George Ouma, a tailor in Nairobi, desperate times calls for desperate measures. When the demand for face masks came calling, he had to literally change his sewing machine gear and capitalize on the new venture, given that his suit-making business had almost grounded to zero. Our reporter Suleiman Yeri spent the day with Ouma, who also distributes the face masks to less fortunate in the society, but free of charge.
The sounds of sewing machines welcomes you to the tailoring shop located along Nairobi's Biashara Street. A few months ago, the shop was a beehive of activities as customers flocked to the premises to make orders for their suits and other garments. The frequency of the sound of the sewing has gone less and less every passing day, thanks to the effects of the coronavirus pandemic. Meet George Ouma, a tailor in Nairobi who depends solely on the business to sustain his life. Ouma, who has been in garment making and design business for more than a decade, says he has little hope for the future if the situation remains the same.
History ya COVID-19 ianze imekuwa vibaya sana.
Ouma says he has already shut down one of his workshops located in Nairobi downtown, rendering some of the employees jobless.
Okay, ilibidi niwaambie watulie tu kwa sababu wakikuja kazini hakuna chenye wangefanya kwa sababu ni kukaa tu na tunapata kazi moja moja. So unajua huwezi kwa sustain na hiyo pesa yenye unapata moja moja.
But for Ouma, it's the case of when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. He has now turned to face mask making to eke a living.
Sisi pia inabidi tukule na inabidi tukue na creative kwa kile ambacho inaweza tu sustain kwa life. So that ndio nilikuja na hii idea ya kutengeneza mask kwa sababu kila mtu sasa anavaa mask.
However, despite tough times presented by the coronavirus outbreak and with little earning from the mask-making business, Ouma still holds the society close to his heart. I accompanied him Saturday as he visited Pride Children's Home in Kibera, where he distributed face masks for free.
Mungu ni upendo na inafaa tupende kila mtu. So that's why natoa mask for free. Sio ya kuwa nijifaidi. Kwa kuwa unajua kidogo ambacho niko nacho inafaa nigawie pia mwingine ama mwenzangu.
The home housing over 30 children appreciated the noble gestures, saying sometime they have weighed between buying food or face mask for every kid.
We have never received this, and it's good that we received because we want it forces us like we buy for them, which is also costly for us.
Lindo tumevaa sahi mask, sisi tunakanga hivyo, but ametusaidia sana.
Wale wanajua wanaweza design hizi vitu, si lazima uende huko nje utengeneze uuze. Unaweza jitolea hata ufikie hata kani 10 people.
And for Ouma the tailor, every situation can also be a blessing if engaged positively. Suleiman Yeri, Channel 1 News.
Wow, thank you so much, Suleiman Yeri, for that report. Such a kind gesture by one Ouma. May God bless you so much for remembering the less fortunate in our society. The International Labour Organization projects 1.6 billion workers in the informal sector. Nearly half of the global workforce are in immediate danger of having their livelihoods destroyed due to the sharp decline in working hours occasioned by the COVID-19 outbreak. ILO says that more than 430 million enterprises in hard-hit sectors such as retail and manufacturing risk serious disruption.
The informal sector across the globe has slumped, leading to a jobs crisis as over 1.6 billion workers face the risk of loss of livelihoods. Director General Guy Ryder says as the pandemic and the jobs crisis evolve, the need to protect the world's most vulnerable workers becomes even more urgent. According to Ryder, for millions of workers, no income means no food, no security, and no future. He further adds millions of businesses around the world are barely breathing as they have no savings or access to credit. The third edition of the ILO Monitor publication on COVID-19 shows due to lockdowns or because they work in hard-hit sectors, these workers in informal sectors globally have experienced a 60% drop in income during the first month of the crisis. ILO says 436 million enterprises operating in wholesale and retail, manufacturing, accommodation and other economic sectors that have been hardest hit and face high risks of serious disruption.
In second quarter of this year, we're looking at an equivalent of the loss of 305 million jobs. That's an extraordinary figure, isn't it? And it's even more extraordinary if you can consider that just 3 weeks ago, We put the same estimate at 195 million. We need to see the G20 do more. We need to see member states having the UN in a position to do more.
In the United States, 3.8 million more Americans filed for unemployment benefits in the week ending April 25th as the coronavirus crisis continues to weigh down the U.S. economy. That brings the total number of first-time claims to 30.3 million over the past 6 weeks, representing roughly 18.6% of the U.S. labor force, as businesses have laid off and furloughed workers during stay-at-home orders across the country. Although businesses like retailers, hotels and restaurants were among the first to lay off and grant workers leave of absence early in the pandemic, economists predict layoffs will start to impact white-collar jobs too. Meanwhile, a plunge in the oil market is expected to lead to bankruptcies in the sector, making job losses worse in the energy industry. In Kenya, the economy faces a 500,000 job loss risk in the next 6 months due to the economic meltdown occasioned by the COVID-19 pandemic. In his Labor Day speech, President Uhuru Kenyatta said businesses have been forced to close or operate for less hours, putting thousands of jobs on the line.
We could lose upwards of 500,000 jobs over the next 6 months. We must do whatever it takes to minimize, if not fully contain, such loss in jobs.
To counter the unemployment, the president said it is time to look inward and build Kenya's manufacturing capability to supply the market demands. Betty Kiptum, Channel 1 News.
Elsewhere, courier shop operators at the Nanyuki's Equator area are counting losses due to low business following the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic. The site that mostly attracted both local and foreign tourists is deserted, with operators saying the last time tourists visited the market was on March 21st.
The Nanyuki's Equator Mark is one of the tourist attraction sites that has seen courier operators eke a living from the sale of local artifacts. But the market located along Nanyuki-Nairobi highway is now deserted since the coronavirus pandemic struck the country. Billy Wambua and Charles Tailor are courier operators here. They say their business has been hardly hit.
Hakuna mgeni hata mmoja ambaye anaingia kutoka nchi za nje na kuingia Kenya. So unakuta biashara imekuwa bure kabisa. Sasa ile kazi tunafanya hapa ni kuja asubuhi, kufungua maduka, kuanika maleso, basi tunakaa bure, hakuna biashara tunafanya.
Hakuna hata mtalii mmoja. Na even local tourism there is zero. So sio kwa pande ya biashara hakuna.
The two normally undertake demonstrations to tourists on how the Coriolis effect works at the Equator Mark, using one jug with a hole at the bottom, water, 2 small pieces of matchsticks, and an empty bowl. But now the business is crumbling. The last foreign visit was on 21st of March.
Hakuna biashara. Hata ukiangalia maduka zimefungwa karibu zote. They are about 10 to 12 shops zile zimebakia. Wengine wote waliama, wakaenda wako majumbani sababu watu wengi sana wametoka just around.
Upande wa serikali ningeomba pia kama ekipi ya county government waweze kutuongeza muda ule wameweka mwisho kulipa license, ama pia watupunguzie iwe nusu na vitu kadhaa kama hiyo.
The situation, they say, has been made worse by cessation of movement, and even local tourists are now hard to come by. Kamche Menza for Channel 1 News.
And the Africa Center for Disease Control says more than 40,000 cases of COVID-19 have been confirmed in Africa, with about 1,700 patients succumbing to the disease. More than 13,000 recoveries have been recorded in Africa. Meanwhile, the number of confirmed worldwide cases is now at 3.45 million, with nearly 40,000 deaths.
Statistics from the Johns Hopkins University in the U.S. show the number of confirmed cases of coronavirus infections worldwide has risen to above 3.35 million, with nearly 239,000 deaths. More than 1,005,000 have recovered. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called for solidarity to respect the rights, dignity and contributions of all affected in the pandemic. In a tweet, he expressed deep concern about COVID-19 on a personal level and about its effects on communities around the world.
I'm deeply concerned about the pandemic on a personal level and about its effects on our communities and societies. Today, we are launching a policy brief that provides analysis and recommendations to address those challenges. Our response to COVID-19 must respect the rights and dignity of older people.
The United States alone has more than 1.1 million confirmed infections. Consequently, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration has granted Gilead Sciences Inc.'s antiviral drug remdesivir emergency use authorization as a treatment for COVID-19. Africa has more than 40,000 cases confirmed, with about 1,700 deaths and more than 13,000 recoveries, according to Africa Center for Disease Control. Out of the 54 African nations, Lesotho is yet to confirm a case of the coronavirus infections. South Africa and Rwanda have started easing coronavirus restrictions, allowing people to resume limited business operations. The same is happening further afield in Spain, where the government has eased strict lockdown conditions, allowing citizens outdoors after 48 days of home confinement. The citizens were allowed to go for walks of play sports, with adults authorized to leave home only to buy food, medicine or walk a dog. At the same time, India has extended its lockdown for 2 more weeks, but with some easing of restrictions. The government says in light of significant gains in managing the COVID-19 situation, areas with few or no cases would be given considerable relaxation. The country has confirmed 37,000 cases with 1,223 deaths. Australia has reported 3 coronavirus cases at a meat processing factory in Victoria as parts of the country started easing physical distancing restrictions. In Germany, the number of confirmed coronavirus cases rose by 945 to 161,703, with the number of deaths standing at more than 6,500.
Back home, the remains of a police officer who was killed by a motorist in Nakuru County while erecting a roadblock to enforce coronavirus curfew has been interred in Kisii County. Slain Police Constable Ambrose Magoma Nyanchwaya, who was deployed to Rongai Sub-County, died on the spot. This and more stories in news making headlines in the counties.
Slain Police Constable Ambrose Magoma Nyanchwaya was accorded reviewed official and customary burial ceremony at his Getare village home in Kisii County in accordance with the COVID-19 measures put in place by the government. During the burial, relatives and friends called for justice, petitioning the National Police Service to ensure legal action is taken against the rogue motorist.
Naamini ya kwamba hii serikali ambayo mzee wangu alikuwa anaitumikia kwa uaminifu itaweza kunitendea haki, kwa sababu tumempoteza mtu ambaye alikuwa ndiye appeal to our family.
And Kitui County Governor Charity Ngilu and Kitui County Assembly Speaker George Ndoto are at loggerheads over delayed hiring of extra medics to help in the fight against the coronavirus pandemic. Ngilu has accused the Assembly of failing to vet and approve nominees to the County Public Service Board, making it difficult to hire the health workers as directed by the state.
Decision that should have been made 2 months ago has taken 2 months. I personally don't take it kindly. I think we are unfair to Kitui people.
Elsewhere, religious leaders have called on the government to ensure vulnerable families are assisted during this hard economic time. Retired African Inland Church Bishop Silas Yego warned government officials from taking advantage of the problem facing the country to deny genuine beneficiaries of support program by the government.
Na naeleza Wakenya wengine, tafadhali mkiwa na riziki yeyote kumbukeni wale ambaye hawana.
Meanwhile, restaurant owners in Makueni County say they cannot afford costs related to requirements by the government to have their outlets open. The county government of Makueni has remained adamant that the facilities will limit operations to take away services until the health requirements are met.
Waangalie vile wanaweza tusaidia sisi kama wafanyikazi wa mahoteli. na wachana na hiyo maneno ya kutuambia ati tuweke tufae magloves, tupimwe, tuangalie tuko na mashine ya kupima watu kama wako na temperature ziko juu. We cannot afford all this. Please, the government of Makueni, check on that.
Well, the national government has incurred more than 2 million shillings losses after 10,003 seedlings recently planted at Kirisia Forest in Samburu County were uprooted by unknown people. The county's ecosystem conservator Charles Ochieng, however, says 80% of the tree seedlings survived, adding that forest conservation and rehabilitation efforts will continue once the people who have settled in the forest are evicted.
Haiwezi faulu kama watu wako ndani. Paka hii watu watoke nje, ndio sisi tuweke our restoration plan in place so that we restore this forest back to its original state.
Finally, a family in Kakamega is seeking justice for their kin who was allegedly killed by Kenya Forest Service officers who were on patrol in Shinyalu constituency. The deceased was reportedly among a group of men who responded to a distress call from villagers before they clashed with the KFS officers.
Mimi mwenyewe hata mtu maskini sina uwezo. Mtoto wangu amewawa. Na natafuta haki. Afadhali serikali mnifanyie hilo nipate haki kwa mtoto yangu.
Ben Chumba reporting for Channel 1 News.
Let's now cross our borders to North Korea, and Kim Jong-un has appeared in public for the first time in 20 days, North Korean state media says. KCNA news agency reports that the North Korean leader cut the ribbon at the opening of a fertilizer factory. It adds that people at the factory broke into thunderous cheers of hooray when he appeared on Friday. State media later released images showing Kim cutting a ribbon outside a factory. The reported appearance, his first season event on state media on April 12, comes amid global speculations over his health. And the latest reports from North Korean media could not be independently confirmed. Right, time for us now to take our second commercial break. When we come back, sports news is up next. Stay tuned.
People who choose to read their Bible daily, they become wiser and they become stronger than the people who don't read their Bibles. So when you choose hard, difficult things, you become a natural leader. He brings us to church to introduce to us another higher level of relationship that is called a faith relationship. You are also a solution to somebody else's problem. You cannot be the only problem all the time.
Join Pastor Jimmy Masharia on the Master's Touch this Sunday from 8 a.m. on KBC Channel 1.
Coronavirus COVID-19 is a respiratory virus spreading across the world. The infection is spread from droplets of coughing and sneezing of an infected person, touching or shaking hands, or being in contact with contaminated surfaces or objects with the virus. The signs and symptoms are fever, coughing, headache, body ache, difficulty in breathing. The disease can be prevented by regularly washing hands with soap and running water. Avoid close contact with people who have flu-like symptoms. Avoid handshake, hugs, and kissing. Also, protect yourself by covering your mouth or nose using a disposable tissue while coughing or sneezing. If you experience these symptoms and you had traveled or been in contact with a person from a country reporting COVID-19, you should isolate yourself for 14 days. Dial *719# or call 719. This message has been brought to you by the Government of Kenya and its partners.
It's now time for sports news, and Sports Cabinet Secretary Ambassador Amina Mohammed has called for concerted efforts from sponsors and partners alike to help in pooling resources together so as to cushion sportsmen and women from the economic aftershocks of the COVID-19 pandemic. Amina was speaking Saturday at Nyayo National Stadium as she received a 15 million shillings check from Betin Farm Betika, which will cover a total of 1,500 sportsmen and women during this pandemic period. The program, according to the CS, is expected to be sustained for a period of 3 months.
Sports Cabinet Secretary Ambassador Amina Mohammed implored upon other corporate entities to come on board and contribute to the kitty, which is meant to cushion sportsmen and women against the coronavirus pandemic.
It has to be a concerted effort. It has to be all of us coming together. We don't know how long this will last, right? And so we're going to make sure that there's something that's given to sportsmen and women, right, every month, so that we're not giving them a lump sum, but we're going to give them some money every month so that they can take care of some of their most pressing needs. We won't be able to take care of all their needs, but we want to make sure that they can continue practicing, of course, obeying all the regulations that are out there, but also that they're able to come out of this strengthened, encouraged by the support they got from their own countrymen and women and the corporates that have supported them, and knowing that they actually carry a huge responsibility, right? And the society has come out to support them. They're also the ones that are brand ambassadors.
Ambassador Mina also added that deliberations are ongoing to tap into the sports fund as the government attempts to cast its net wider.
We have a directive from His Excellency the President, right, to go into the sports fund. We have made a proposal that has gone to the board of the sports fund. They will be deliberating on it on the 5th of May, as I understand, on Tuesday, the 5th of May. And we are hoping that they will approve it. And if they approve it, then we'll share the details, of course, with you. But that money will do the same thing. It will go directly to the players. And again, we want to make this something that we can stretch out. So we will be giving them a small amount of money every month for the next 2 to 3 months.
Nobody here knows, nobody in the world knows. So whatever little money we get, we're not actually giving out the money so that people can live luxury lives. We are giving them to be able to just sustain themselves. And that way we can actually stretch the check for longer periods of time, because we anticipate the next 2-3 months, business is not as usual. Their company is suffering. All other private companies are suffering. The government is also suffering. The resource basket has gone down. So you don't expect to get a lot of money moving forward until things normalize. So everybody needs to appreciate it's not the amount of money you'd wish to receive like a salary, but it's something to help you get food, get a bit of medication, and just be decent during this period.
Meanwhile, sports betting from Betika termed their 15 million shillings donation as part of their support to the arts, culture and sports industry reeling from the COVID-19 impact.
As you can see, we are trying to invest in different sectors and support as many industries to make sure that they stay afloat during this period. And like Wanapia said, this is not a salary, but is a token to help them and be able to just go through this period. So after COVID, we don't know when after COVID is, but we'll still continue doing such initiatives. And like you realize, our turnaround is very fast.
Bernard Okumu, The Sport at 9.
Division 2 side Gogo Boys FC players have a reason to smile in this pandemic period after shirt sponsors Lancet Kenya committed to continue funding the side and help players make it through this difficult period. The company on Saturday announced a 550,000 shillings payout that will cater for players' salaries and allowances for a period of 3 months. The Kibra-based side lies second on the standings and hopeful of a Division 1 qualification next season.
The season was supposed to end in June. We had budgeted to remit, because usually remit on a monthly basis, all the match allowances and the training allowances. So we have decided whatever was budgeted for, we will pay it in full, up to June. And July is usually a gap month, but because we have had the cancellation in the season and all these economic things affected, we will still go ahead and also pay in July as part of our support to the club. Because remember, we are paying for the players and the technical bench. In total, I think we have 35 people individually that we are supporting. they'll end up missing on the match winning bonus, because we usually pay a bonus for wins, but at least with the support of the food and the rest, I think it will enable them to make their ends meet at least for now.
Imekuwa urgent sana, imetupata kama hakuna mtu alikuwa amejipanga, hata kiteam wachezaji hakuna mtu alikuwa amejipanga, lakini tunashukuru God sana, tuko na Lancet of which wametusaidia kutoka kitambo. Sasa hii kuna venye imetuhanda mentally, ukiangalia hata wase wengine unaweza pata msana jiongelesha jua hii mambo juu ile atuchezi game, yani ufanye kitu ulikuwa unataka, alafu tena ile bonuses za game aziko. Sasa unacheki imebidi Lancet imeingilia ndani. Kimimi nachukulianga Lancet ni kama second parent wangu. Juu venye wamenisaidia, playing for change haiwezi kuja rahisi. Hao wamecheza part kubwa sana.
Lakini Lancet wanajitokeza wakati wote. Kama saa hizi wanajitokeza, wanatulipa, hatuchezi game lakini tunalipwa mpaka winning allowance, tunalipwa mpaka training allowance na to train. Lakini kutrain upande wetu pia sisi wenyewe pia kama wachezaji tuna train, kama roadwork tunaenda roadwork, aerobics wewe mwenyewe tunapewa program pia ile na coach, ile vitu ambavyo inafaa tufanye.
Yeah.
That brings us to the end of Channel 1 Weekend this Saturday night. It's always a pleasure to have you keep us company, your feedback and opinion, a lot of it. Let me see if I can sample quickly some of them. Richard Marshall tuned from Machakos County, Jermaine Joka from Vihiga, Koech Ken from Nandi County, Michael from Naivasha, Nakuru County, Job Odoyo watching from Kisumu, Bansi, Ongwaru, okay. Charles Kabinga tuned in from Kiambu County, Bungoma County, Peter Blessed Ben, you tuned in from Mumias, the floods, Kimende, Tanariva, and Mombasa. God help us. Thank you so much for your feedback. Of course, Channel 1 Weekend will be on tomorrow. Same place, same time. I'll see you then. My name is Purity Museo. Byron Abuli has been our sign language interpreter. Good night. God bless. Be safe.